The People's House, a family's legend.
I can remember being a little kid and asking my father what it was.
A century-old mystery.
He said, it's from the White House. I go, talking about D.C. White House? I was just stunned.
The White House neither confirms nor denies.
What do you see?
Gold.
Let's investigate.
I scrape the paint layers down to the wood.
And when you heard what it was worth?
And sold.
I'm Jamie Colby, and today I'm in Boston to meet an heir who has an inheritance so strange, it takes years just to figure out what it is.
My name is Mike Meister. My siblings and I inherited something that goes back to our great-uncle more than 100 years ago. We'd always been told that it came from the White House, but it was just a family story. Hi, Jimmy. Welcome to Boston.
Thanks, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, too.
Mike leads me inside, saying he has something amazing to show me. He keeps it in its own molded, airtight protective case. Can I take a look?
Sure can.
You brought me all the way here, Mike. What is it? Mike's strange inheritance is this piece of decorative pine wood. 30 inches long, 14 inches across, 4 inches thick. On the back is a faint signature and a date. J.S. Williamson, October 15th, 1902.
There's a real story behind it. Family legend is that it's from the White House.
Could that be? The White House does have a colorful past. It's nearly completed at the end of John Adams' presidency. He moves in November 1800, but stays only a few months. Thomas Jefferson spends 2 terms there before handing the keys to James Madison. Then, British troops set it ablaze in the War of 1812. First Lady Dolly Madison orders the staff to remove this beloved portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart. But according to William Seal, author of 2 books on the White House, the building's interior is destroyed.
They burned the 2nd floor with rubble. I mean, they broke up all the furniture and poured lamp oil on it. And the attic fell in, and then it burned through the main floor, and the whole thing, in about 2 hours, was just a shell.
After the war, the original architect, James Hoban, rebuilt it exactly as it had been, in what will become known as the Federal style.
President Madison decreed that it be rebuilt as a symbol of survival.
By 1817, the renovation is almost complete, and our 5th president, James Monroe, moves in. A dozen years later, the 7th, Andrew Jackson, lets a drunken mob trash the place during his inaugural ball. Maybe this poor piece of wood was part of the collateral damage. Who knows? Over the years, presidents come and presidents go, redecorating, repainting, and renovating to suit their individual tastes. Then, in 1902, Theodore Roosevelt begins the first wholesale restoration of the mansion that he officially names the White House. It's time to pick up the thread of this strange inheritance story. For this? According to Mike Meister, in 1902, his great-uncle Joseph Williamson Jr. is a law student at Georgetown University in D.C. One day, he strolls down Pennsylvania Avenue, spots the piece of wood in a junk pile, and thinks, it's pretty neat.
Joseph Jr. picked it up.
Like a yard sale? Did
No,
they buy it?
It was scrap. I mean, it was things that were going to be eventually hauled off to landfills, burned, whatever.
He brings it home to Illinois from law school and gives it to his father as a memento. His dad inscribes his name and writes the date on the back. The piece is handed down in the family to Mike's dad, Wayne Meister, in the 1930s. Where was it kept?
It was in the basement of our house out in Illinois, a farm that my parents bought after World War II. And it was hanging on the wall, and I can remember being a little kid and asking my father what it was. And he would say, that's a piece of the White House.
Did you believe him? You're a farm kid in Illinois and your parents have a piece of a White House?
When he said something, it meant he wasn't making things up.
Pretty cool, though it's just one conversation piece in a house that Wayne and his wife Ann pack with all sorts of gewgaws, knickknacks, and odd antiques.
One of their hobbies was going to auctions and tag sales and finding things of value. And then if they needed refinishing, they would refinish them.
Did they ever consider taking sandpaper or paintbrush to that mysterious hunk of wood in the cellar? Mike shudders to think.
What if she decided this ugly old thing, I'm going to strip the paint, but she certainly never did.
Are you kidding? That could have happened?
Well, it didn't.
In 1964, the Meisters and a moving van full of antiques relocate to Massachusetts. It's there during Christmas time in 1988 that Mike, all grown up, announces he's getting married.
We had a family dinner to meet the in-laws, and my brother-in-law, Larry Forrest, was there.
That night, Mike brings Larry into the attic.
I said to Larry, I want to show you something, and I took him upstairs and I showed him. It was in a moving box from 1964.
They didn't even unpack it.
No.
Mike pulled out a piece out of the box, and he said, "It's from the White House." And I go, "Talking about D.C. White House?" He goes, "Yeah." I was just stunned. If you ask somebody what's the most important building in our history, they're going to say the White House. And here it was, sitting right next to me.
Did Mike ask you to learn more about it for him?
The more we got talking about it, we said, let's find out where this came from.
But it's just talk, and it will be for years. Mike's dad dies in 1996, and his mom in 2001. Only then do the Meister kids begin to deal with any of the old stuff their parents accumulated.
Did your parents leave a will?
We had a trust.
Did they specify?
Not in that particular case, no. To clean the house out, to send things to auction and sell it, it was probably a good 3 months. But we kept a lot of the things, too, that meant something to each one of us.
One of the things they keep is that distressed hunk of wood.
There was no way we were going to sell that because we didn't even know what it was.
What'd you think it was?
An architectural element from the White House, but we had no idea what.
It's not until 2007 that brother-in-law Larry Forrest convinces the Meister family they need to get some answers, and he takes on the role of lead investigator. His first line of inquiry, the White House itself.
I spoke to a gentleman, and I told him about what the family had. And after the laughter and telling me that that wasn't possible, I said, we're pretty sure it's written on the back and so forth. And he goes, it's probably from some other old building or whatever.
But Larry persists. His letters, his calls turn up nothing. Then after 2 solid years, his search leads him to historian and author Bill Seal.
I said, can I just send you pictures? So when he received them, he called me back and he goes, I swear I've seen it.
Was it a eureka moment?
That's next.
But first, our strange inheritance quiz question. The current Oval Office was not built until 1934, when FDR was president. What did the new Oval Office replace? A swimming pool, a laundry, or a conference room? The answer when we return. So, what did the modern-day Oval Office replace? The answer is B, a laundry drying area. But if you said C, you might know that the first formal executive office was created by FDR's fifth cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, and today is known as the Roosevelt Conference Room.
For years, Mike Meister was told his father had a family heirloom like no other. A decorative piece of wood with peeling paint, reputed in family lore to be from the White House. The problem? Nobody knows how to find out if the story is true. It's become an irresistible mystery to Mike and his brother-in-law, Larry Forrest, who are determined to solve it. Larry's inquiries are all met by laughter and blank stares, until he calls author and historian Bill Seal.
He was skeptical that it could be the actual White House. So I said, can I just send you pictures?
What was your initial reaction?
Well, I thought it looked suspicious. And so I didn't tell much until I researched it.
Did you say, just leave it in the attic another 50 years, it'll be fine?
No, I was too curious for that.
In fact, the Meister's photos have Bill scratching his head.
He called me back and he goes, I swear I've seen it.
Bill is remembering a particular photo from 1898 during the McKinley administration that he used in one of his books about the White House. The photo shows a hallway called the Cross Hall.
This is the Cross Hall. It's used a lot now, started by President George W. Bush.
There it is.
And this is that march to the East Room. In those days, you had a grand staircase here.
And then, suddenly, Bill spots it, off in the corner between a chair and a potted plant right there. See it? Look familiar? Sure looks like Mike's strange inheritance. And there it is, in the White House in 1898, when William McKinley is president.
And there is the plinth on the, it's the only one it could be because it's for that side.
I'd never heard of a plinth. What is a plinth?
It's the base of a column that runs up the wall.
How many were there?
Well, there were 4. They were in niches in the hall where originally built for stoves.
Do we know where the other 3 are?
No.
Never been seen.
So now I'm wondering, how does the plinth get from that cozy corner in the White House to the Meister's attic? Well, in September 1901, President McKinley is in Buffalo, New York at the Pan American Exposition. He's shaking hands with the public when an anarchist named Leon Chalgas assassinates him. Suddenly, Vice President Teddy Roosevelt is sworn in. Among his many big ambitions is a gut rehab of the executive mansion.
1902 was a major reshaping of the symbol of the White House into a more worldly time. America became more international, and the White House was redone to be compatible with that.
TR's goal is to return it to its original Federalist incarnation, while clearing it out to accommodate a brood of 6 children and a pony. It also means separating the living quarters from our nation's most important executive offices.
He moved the offices out of the family floor and built the West Wing. He reorganized the place so it wasn't just an old plantation house.
To that end, Roosevelt's architects rearranged the entrance, removing the stairway and these Victorian Tiffany panels from the cross hall, as well as all that old ornamental woodwork, like the plinths. The workers pile loads of rubbish outside, and souvenir hunters snatch it up.
There is one letter from Theodore Roosevelt, and he said people are scattering around for souvenirs.
So Bill Seal is beginning to believe that the Meister family lore about great-uncle Joseph must be true, and that this hunk of wood really is a relic of the White House, going all the way back to 1817 when President Monroe moved in after that nasty business with the British.
Were you interested in it?
Very. I was stricken by it, to tell you the truth.
So something that looks like wood or plaster is actually a whole story in and of itself?
It's like DNA. The object has many, many things to say.
And the next step is very much like a DNA test. What they discover was that this strange inheritance was a lot more important and valuable an artifact than even Bill Seal had imagined.
You're smiling.
That's next.
Here's another quiz question for you. Which amenity was added during the Obama administration? Was it the White House putting green, bowling alley, or basketball court? The answer when we return. So, which was added during the Obama administration? It's C. The White House tennis court was converted to a basketball court for the former high school hoops player.
It's November of 2009, and historian Bill Seal, based on this photograph, believes that Mike Meister likely inherited a rare and very important relic, an actual piece of the White House. It's an ornamental piece of wood called a plinth that may have been removed during Teddy Roosevelt's 1902 renovation. In order to verify its authenticity, Seal advises the family to have the paint analyzed. So Mike and his brother-in-law Larry Forrest drive from Boston to Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, to meet with this guy, historic paint analyst Frank Welsh.
He said, You guys go out for a little while. I'm going to do analysis on it and see what I think.
Frank studies the paint layers with a magnifying glass and then a stereo microscope as he scrapes away each layer with an X-Acto knife.
And I start recording, starting with the layer closest to the wood, numbering the layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to the most recent.
Well, we got a call in about half hour, and he goes, this is spot on. The 17 layers of paint on this, there's 3 layers of gold leaf on it. He said there's absolutely 100% exactly what it should be for that time period.
Everything seemed to line up very, very well. I felt very comfortable that the paints that I was looking at could easily be as old as they felt the plinth was. It is very unique.
As TR would say, that's bully. In identifying those 17 layers of paint, Frank may be the first person to open the door to a previously unknown decorative history of the White House. Author Bill Seal matches each paint layer with a chapter in presidential history.
If you want accuracy in history, here's the real thing. This is our only touch with those periods.
Bill does the math. There were 21 administrations between Presidents James Madison and Teddy Roosevelt, but 3 of them, Harrison, Taylor, and Garfield, were exceptionally short due to death from illness or assassination. If the hallway isn't repainted during those presidencies, and maybe one president lacks the inclination to repaint, you've got your 17 layers right there. After generations of repeating their family legend, the Meisters now know they spoke the truth all along.
You went from rejection to respect. How'd that feel?
We had solved a mystery.
Bill Seal encourages them to donate the plinth on the spot to the White House Historical Association. They say they're inclined to, but first they need to find out what it's worth.
Did you have a number in mind that you thought it would be?
No.
What about you, Larry? You did all the running around.
You could shoot real high on this one just from the fact of how much historical value it has.
And when the Meisters get the appraisal, they'll have some thinking to do. That's next. What's your strange inheritance story? We'd love to tell it. Send me an email or go to our website, strangeinheritance.com.
Now, back to Strange Inheritance.
By the fall of 2014 in Boston, Mike Meister and his brother-in-law, Larry Forrest, have determined that a piece of wood called a plinth, handed down through several generations in the Meister family, really is from the White House, and very rare indeed. But is it valuable? They take it to an appraiser.
You're smiling.
Well, he praised it at $500,000.
The appraiser was an old-time White House appraiser. I was very surprised. That was more than I expected it to be.
Who would buy such a thing?
Someone with the money to buy it, or someone that wanted to buy it and give it to a museum or a presidential library.
Historian Bill Seal is hoping the Meister family will cut out the middleman, donate the plinth to the White House Historical Association themselves, and take a tax write-off. But that's a lot to ask of Mike and his 3 siblings, who could be looking at walking away with $125,000 apiece.
Are you going to sell?
We're having it put up for auction, I think, in the long run, and I'm hoping that it'll be appreciated by many more people than might have been with the White House Historical Association.
The Meisters reach out to Bobby Livingston at RR Auction in Amherst, New Hampshire.
When I first laid eyes on the plinth, I was like, wow, it's spectacular. As someone who handles a lot of historic items, when you see something like 17 layers of paint, it tells a story.
He joins us live from New Hampshire.
Next thing you know, the story is getting big media coverage, including on Fox News.
We've never in 30 years offered any pieces of the 1817 White House. Because there's no, photography from that era, it's incredibly important. We've had registrations from all over the world, so we expect the bidding to be quite lively.
Number 22, architectural ornament from the main hall of the White House.
The Meister family is on hand for the auction in Boston in September 2015.
100, 100, 110,
Here we go.
120, looking for 120.
The bidding starts to pick up a little momentum.
120, 130. 140.
But then it just fizzles.
160,000 once, 160 twice. Sold $150,000. Fantastic.
It's nowhere near the $500,000 appraisal, though $150,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And Mike reminds us that it wasn't only about the money, but sharing a neat piece of America's past. Just like his ancestor, who wandered by the White House one day in 1902 and thought to snatch up a souvenir to send back home.
Is this the best case of being in the right place at the right time?
I believe it is. I really do. I think from what we've learned of it and what hopefully other people can learn from it, I think it's a living piece of history.
So who bought Mike Meister's strange inheritance? Well, we know this much: a Fox viewer. All Bobby Livingston would say is that one of those watching him on Fox News before the auction was so intrigued he phoned in and plunked down $150 grand. If you're watching now, enjoy your piece of history. And remember, you can't take it with you. I'm Jamie Colby. Thanks for watching Strange Inheritance.